Hey there, today I'm going to be showing you how to create a height blending shader with shader graph for terrains and other objects in your scene. The shader itself is kind of messy overall, but it's not that complicated. It's just hard to parse out what is going on in the shader graph at first, but once you have everything set up, it's actually quite simple. This tutorial is based on another tutorial, which I'll link in the description below if you want to see where I'm getting my information from. And I highly recommend you click on the first timestamped link to see an issue with this shader that I won't discuss here, just because I want to keep this short. Currently I'm using Unity version 2020.3, using the Universal Render Pipeline, so not the HDRP. And first thing you'll need is some textures. Some textures here like this. These are from some old PS2 game. You could probably find better ones than this. I'm using a stone texture here for the red channel. Using this dirt channel here for the base channel, using this kind of light grass here for the green channel, and using this thicker grass here for my blue channel. And then I've also got two different height maps. You only need one. I was just messing around testing each of these, and a normal map channel. I mean a normal map texture. Sorry. Second thing I need to do is click on Window. Head over to Package Manager, and you want to type in here Poly Brush. So go ahead and install this so you can. It's going to allow us to paint on the vertices with our channels, on the vertexes of our mesh through each of the channels with our shader. And the second thing you might want, although it's not necessary for this tutorial, is Pearl Builder. And what this does is it allows you to modify meshes and create different kinds of shapes and sizes, and both of those are completely free, so don't worry about that. And skip ahead at this part of the video if you want to just build the shader yourself, but I'm going to be discussing how this actually works right now. So let's get my poly brush here, and you want to click on this button here in the middle. And then I'm going to pick the red channel where my stone is. My strength here is set all the way to 1. And I'm going to turn off the alpha channel. And so now I can start painting my stone texture. And if I wanted to blend it a little bit more with the grass for whatever reason, I could lower that down a bit. And grab other colors. Or textures rather. Let's say I wanted to put back that grassy green. And I'll just draw that in there. So yeah, pretty straightforward. All the channels here are set up. You can change these materials to whatever you want them to be for each material. And another thing I can do with this is create a kind of glossy effect. Let's see if I can do this exactly. So yeah, it's kind of hard to see. Let's go over here. So here I have it applied here. You can see it's a little shiny, a little glossier on this grass here. And that's with this alpha channel turned up. Because without it, you're just going to get a flat, non-glossy texture. So I've put it here next to my water that I have going. And it kind of gives it a nice effect overall. And so let's go back over here. So yeah, that's basically how this works. Another thing you can do is the shader we're going to build uses world position for its UV tiling, which is great for like building levels and different shaped objects and maintaining the same UV scale. So let me draw some more of this brick here so it's a little more clear. If we go ahead and were to scale this, the shader actually maintains the tile size. So even though we've increased this scale by like 4 times, it keeps the UV scale. Even if we move this around, which is really handy when you're trying to make levels and stuff like that. So yeah, really cool. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and actually build a shader. And here's the shader. As you can see, it's quite a mess, and it would take me forever to go step by step of how to actually build this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this shader in parts. So I'm going to show you this part first, then we're going to build this part here, and then this down here, and then finally we're going to build this section. And then after those 4 parts are built, I'm going to instruct you how to connect all these together from these different trees. And you're going to want all these properties here listed on the left. You're going to need all of those. So don't create them just yet, but here's the first part you're going to create. And if you don't know how to mess with shader graph, I recommend watching another video on how to do that. So I'm going to assume you already know how to create all these nodes and connect everything together and create properties. So the first things we're going to need are these base tile properties here. So base tile, red tile, green tile, blue tile, and they're all defaulted to 1, and they're just floats, vector 1s. So go ahead and pause the video here and hook everything up. This float here is set to 4. You don't need to give this a property because it's just, this is for our tiling our UVs. So this is giving us the number that we can tile off. So if I set this any lower or higher, it would change the scaling number that we would use for our property over here of our UV tilings. Make sure this position node over here is set to world, and moving on. So this is the same graph. It's just we're adding this part now. These lerp nodes and these sample texture nodes. So let's zoom in here because you already have all this on the left. So you're going to create 2D texture properties: base diffuse, red diffuse, green diffuse, and blue diffuse. And you're going to want to hook these into the UVs, and then carefully make sure all these lerps are correctly connected. Okay, moving on. Now this is the second part of this shader graph. Okay, drag that in. Properties we're going to need here is blend amount, which is a vector 1 or a float defaulted to 1. And you're going to need a more texture 2D properties: red height, green height, and blue height. And this can be a little tricky to see, and I'm going to move these around a little bit so you can see what goes to what exactly. But just pause the video here and go ahead and connect everything together. And okay, so this split node is going into the first row of multiply nodes into the A's, if you can see that. And then blend amount here is going into the multiply on the second row where the A is on the A input. That's maybe a little easier to see there. And then finally the clamps, just input those, and that's it for this part of the tree. And now for the third part, these will be our normal maps. So create 4 more properties, texture 2Ds, base normal, red normal, green normal, blue normal, and then you're going to want to create a base strength, vector 1, and default these to 1, and then make it a slider. And what you can do here is you can click on this and hit Control D, and it'll duplicate it, and it'll maintain those same properties. So it'll be default 1, it'll still be a slider, and you can make 4 of these. So base strength, red strength, green strength, and blue strength as properties here. And go ahead and pause the video here and connect everything together. Make sure these lerp nodes are correctly connected. And now moving on to this small section, which is fairly simple, but we're going to create 3 more properties here. So wet tint is going to be a color, so go to properties and create a color. And then wetness, this is going to be a vector 1 or a float, so create that and default it to 0.1. And the shine over here, same thing, vector 1 float, default that to 0.6, and then drag those in and connect those up together. Great. So this is where we have to start connecting things. So if you haven't got this far without these connections, ignore these connections here, you should have all 4 of these parts, and you can hit Control G and group them together. So if I were to highlight these and hit Control G, it would group these together into a new group. So yeah, go ahead and group those together for yourself. Why did I do that? Take a sip of my drink. Alright, anyway. So, now we're going to connect these together. So first thing I want you to do, because it's not entirely obvious, this part, this split node over here from the height maps, the alpha channel here, it's got to split off into 2 different places. First place it goes is on the bottom of this lerp node, and the second place is on the bottom of this lerp node into the wetness graph. So from the height map graph, split node all the way into these lerp nodes on the bottom, T and T. Okay. Next thing we'll do is from these multiply nodes. From this multiply node, the second one, not the first one, 1, 2, 3, well, 2, 3, 4. You're gonna split this, don't disconnect this, split it off into the UV of this one. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. And just hook those into here, into the UV on the left side. Just like it's hooked into the UV here, same for these. Okay. Next thing you'll want is from these clamp nodes, you're going to pull this out and connect it into the lerp node. So 1, 2, 3 into the T of each one, the bottom. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, just like that. So your graph should look like this now. Next we're going to connect this part. Just make sure you have this all correctly connected. Alright. Finally, I've removed the connections so you can see this a little easier. So all the connections we just did, I got rid of all these. And now we're just focusing on the other connections we're going to do. So this right here, and this. So just these connections here. So first let's do this. From this first row of multiply, you're going to split off, just like you see here. Don't disconnect it, just split it off all the way into these lerp nodes. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Again, I'll move those around for you. just like that. So into the T of each one, again, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then finally we're doing this back into the UVs again, just like we did for the height maps. Now we're doing it for the normal maps. Going to connect, split off from here, just like you split off here, and just like you split off down here. Split off from here, but instead we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4. So all 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's how these are going to be connected. So you've got these new connections being made. And so finally, oh, okay, all the way back up. All your connections should look like this, and I'll get to this in just a moment. So you've got 3 here. You've got these 3, these 4, sorry. We just did these. You've got these 2 into the wetness tree from the split node. And then you've got, if I can do these, yeah, kinda, there we go. From the clamp into these lerps, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So now this part. This is the final part of this. So first, take this output from the last lerp node in the normal map tree and plug that into normal here. So from this lerp into normal here. Okay. And okay, from this lerp node, from the wetness, oh, I didn't group these. Control G. Wetness. From here, connect this into smoothness, right there. And finally, you want to connect these 2 like this. From this lerp node into the multiply here, and into this lerp node here. And then this output is going into the base color. So again, rewind this video, pause it, make sure everything's correct. If you're having issues, it's probably because I might have missed some important thing. Watch it again. Make sure all your properties are here. I'm going to click on each of these properties. Okay, and then save here, save asset. And that should be it. Now you can go over here. My shader is called Height Blend. So you could right click it, create material. And this material will be using your shader now. If you see up here, shader graphs, height blend, and plug in your textures here. So base, diffuse, red diffuse, green diffuse, and blue diffuse. And the height map I'm going to use is this one, and the normal map this one. And pull the strength down a bit on these normal strength. Okay, and this color, bring it down about here, probably, maybe, it's up to you. what you want to do with that shininess color thing. And so now I'm going to drag this in here, and as you can see it changes, right? So the UV scale is a little high. So the way to fix that right away is base tile here. I'm going to increase that to 15. Red tile, 15. Green tile, 15. Blue tile, 15. So there we go. And now that looks exactly like my shader, because it retained all that information. So I had the shininess there on the road. Again, you can control that shininess however you like. You can increase the values here, make it more shiny. Now it looks like, I don't know, something. You could change the color, make it black. Maybe it's oil, I don't know. Blue. Whatever you like. And this here, the 0.1, that is the base shininess for everything. So you can make everything shiny if you just increase that. So that might be useful if you just wanted to make everything shiny. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching this video, and hopefully you've learned something. Take care.